My dear friends, have you ever noticed how a diamond doesn't shine just because it exists, but only when it is polished, cut, and placed in the light? Our soul is no different. It is already divine, already brilliant, but most of us walk around carrying the dust of stress, the layers of ego, the fog of comparison, and the weight of the world, forgetting that deep inside, we are already connected to a supreme light, to God. Today, I'm not here to tell you how to get spirituality. You already have it. I'm here to guide you on how to access it. And the beauty, you need 20 years of effort. You don't even need 20 days. Just 20 minutes. Yes, 20 minutes to awaken the brilliance that already lives in you. But let's get one thing clear. This isn't about religion. This is not about rituals. This is about real inner connection, the kind of connection that gives you clarity when your mind is confused, strength when your emotions are weak, and peace when the world outside is noisy. These next 20 minutes, they are not just minutes. They are your gateway to living a spiritually intelligent, emotionally balanced, and mentally grounded life. Let's begin this journey to your spiritual brilliance. A brilliance that doesn't come from books or from outside validation, but from tuning into the silent power of God that is already seated in your heart. Silence is not the absence of sound, it is the presence of the soul. We live in a world where the noise never stops, notifications buzzing, traffic honking, conversations flowing, expectations pressing. From the moment we wake up, we are pulled outward, bombarded by distractions that tug at our peace. And yet, within all this chaos lies a secret door: silence. It may seem so simple that we often ignore it, but silence is not empty. It is full of answers. Think about it. When a pond is disturbed, the reflection disappears. But when the water is still, you can see your face clearly. The same is true for the mind. When our thoughts are constantly stirred by anxiety, desires, and distractions, we lose touch with the reflection of God within us. But when we learn to become still, even for a few minutes, we begin to see life with clarity, with truth, with a deeper understanding. In our fast-paced lifestyle, silence feels almost uncomfortable. People are so used to stimulation that even a minute without a phone, music, or conversation feels strange. But here's the beauty. Your soul thrives in silence. That's where it breathes. That's where it rests. And that is where it begins to glow. Let me share a story. A man once went to a spiritual master and said, "I want to experience God. But I've been meditating, reading scriptures, doing rituals, and still I feel nothing." The master smiled and said, "Go to the forest. Sit beneath the same tree for 7 days. Don't chant, don't pray. Just sit in silence and observe." The man did exactly that. On the first day he was restless. On the second he was bored. On the third he was tempted to leave. But by the fourth, something began to shift. He heard birds in a way he had never heard before. He saw the light filtering through the leaves as if it was poetry. By the sixth day, he wasn't just sitting under the tree. He became part of it. And on the seventh day, he came back with tears in his eyes. "I didn't meet God through words," he said. "I met him in the silence between the words." You see, silence is not a tool. It is a spiritual state. It is a return to our original nature. In childhood, before we learned to speak, we were already spiritual. Our smiles were divine, our presence was pure. We were not chasing goals, likes, fame, or validation. We were simply being. And that's what silence gives us again. The permission to just be. In your daily life, you don't have to run away to a forest or an ashram. Start small. Sit in silence for 5 minutes after you wake up. Don't even try to meditate in the formal sense. Just be. Close your eyes. Let the thoughts come and go. Don't follow them. Don't fight them. Just breathe and be still. And in that stillness, slowly, you'll start to feel something bigger than your mind. A presence, a quiet awareness. That is God, subtle, gentle, and always there. You don't need to look for Him. You just need to turn the volume of the world down so you can hear His whisper. Look at nature. Have you ever seen a flower making noise while it blooms? Have you ever heard the sun shouting while it rises? The most powerful things in life happen in silence. Transformation doesn't always come with drama. Sometimes it comes quietly, like the way dew forms on a leaf or dawn, silent, sacred, and unseen by the noisy world. Even in relationships, silence holds magic. Sometimes sitting quietly with someone we love, without needing to say anything, creates a deeper connection than 1,000 words. Because in silence, there is space for understanding. In silence, we begin to feel the soul, not just the surface. And here's the key. When you master silence, you master your reactions. People say something rude, and you don't have to react immediately. In silence, you can choose your response. When your emotions rise like a storm, silence helps you anchor. It gives you power over your impulses. And this is where spiritual brilliance begins. Not in knowing fancy scriptures, but in practicing everyday silence to center your energy, to touch the divine, and to realign with your higher self. Imagine how different your life would be if just 20 minutes a day were dedicated to this kind of deep silence. Not empty, but intentional silence. Not passive, but full of presence. This small practice can bring a big transformation. Your mind becomes clearer, your decisions wiser, your reactions calmer, your connection to God deeper. You don't have to become a monk. You don't have to leave your family or job. You simply need to make space for silence. Because within that sacred pause lies a power greater than any chores the world can throw at you. That is where your soul polishes itself. That is where your spiritual brilliance awakens. Not in the noise but in the stillness that holds God's light. So today, give yourself the gift of silence. Not as a task, but as a reunion with your deepest truth. The world may not notice it, but your soul will shine, and that shine it is spiritual brilliance. Every morning, the world rushes into our lives before we even have the chance to breathe. Alarms ring, phones light up, messages pour in, and our minds, barely awake, are already racing. The day hasn't even begun, yet the battle has. This is how most of us begin our mornings, with a struggle. We wake up not with calm, but with concern. Not with gratitude, but with a to-do list. But what if we told you that the first few moments after waking up are sacred? What if those few minutes held the power to determine your peace, your purpose, and your connection to God for the entire day? It's said that how you begin the day sets the tone for everything that follows. A morning of struggle leads to a day of tension. But a morning of surrender opens the door to peace, clarity, and alignment. You don't need an hour-long ritual. You don't need complicated techniques. You just need one simple shift in mindset. Instead of starting the day on your own, start it with God. Imagine this. You wake up, sit up in bed, and instead of grabbing your phone, you place your hand on your heart. You take a deep breath. Not because someone told you to do so, but because you're acknowledging life itself. That breath is a reminder. I am alive today, not by chance, but by grace. That single thought shifts everything. In that one moment of surrender, you go from being a person rushing into the world to being a soul walking hand in hand with God. You can say something as simple, Dear God, this day is yours. Guide me, protect me, keep me aware. That's all. But those words are not just words. They are an act of spiritual alignment. You're no longer trying to control everything. You're allowing divine energy of the universe to walk with you. Let me tell you a story of a working mother. Her mornings used to be a battlefield. Waking up late, screaming at the kids, burning the toast, and arriving to work already exhausted, she was stuck in a loop of stress. One day, an elderly woman in her neighborhood saw her and said gently, "Beta, give just 2 minutes of your morning to the one who gave you this day. The rest will take care of itself." At first, she laughed. What difference could 2 minutes make? But the next morning, she tried it. She sat up, closed her eyes, and whispered a short prayer of surrender. She didn't ask for things. She simply offered the day to God. And over time, something magical happened. Her energy shifted. She became calmer. The kids noticed it. Her husband noticed it. Her workplace noticed it. But most importantly, she noticed it. And it all started with surrender, not struggle. When you start your day with surrender, you stop trying to carry the world on your shoulders. You realize you are not alone. You don't have to control everything. You are being guided by a force that sees more than you do. The challenges may still come, but your inner world will not be shaken as easily. Why? Because you've rooted yourself in something bigger than the problem. The ego thrives on control. It says, "I will fix everything." But the soul whispers, "Let God lead." And mornings are the best time to listen to that whisper. Because it's the time before the noise, before the distractions, before the world demands anything from you. If you use that time wisely, even for just a few minutes, the rest of the day begins to feel less like a burden and more like a blessing. Think of it like this. You wouldn't drive a car without switching on the engine first, right? Yet, so many of us try to drive through life without switching on our spiritual engine. Surrender is that ignition. It's what powers the rest of your journey. It's not weakness. It's wisdom. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need to know how the day will unfold. You simply need to begin it in the right direction, with your inner compass pointing to God. That's all. And the beautiful part is, you don't have to do this perfectly. Some days you'll forget. Some days you'll rush. But each time you remember to surrender, even briefly, your soul remembers its power. Try this tomorrow morning. Don't jump into the day. Step into it. Don't begin with pressure. Begin with peace. Don't just go after success. Go with support. From the one who breathes life into your being every moment. That act of surrender will not make you passive. It will make you powerful. Because you'll be walking not by force, but by faith. When your first thoughts in the morning aren't, "What do I have to do?" But instead, "How can I stay connected to God today?" Your energy changes. You stop reacting. You start responding. You stop panicking. You start trusting. You stop carrying the weight alone. You walk lightly because someone far greater is carrying the burden with you. So remember, start your day not with struggle, but with surrender. And watch how the entire rhythm of your life begins to dance in divine harmony. There's a strange paradox in life. The more we cling, the more we suffer. And the more we let go, the more peace we find. We live in a culture that tells us to hold on tightly, tight to our dreams, our status, our possessions, our image, even our relationships. But true spiritual brilliance doesn't come from grasping tightly. It comes from understanding the art of detachment. Not because we don't care, but because we care deeply enough to stay connected without becoming consumed. To detach is not to disconnect from life. It is to connect more deeply with the divine, with yourself, and with the truth that nothing in this world is permanent. Let's take an everyday example. Think of a mother raising her children. She loves them deeply. She sacrifices her sleep, her comforts, even her own dreams to raise them with love. But as they grow, she must learn to let them fly. If she clings too tightly, trying to control every decision, every step, it leads to friction, misunderstanding, and even emotional distance. But when she learns to step back with love, to guide without controlling, to care without clinging, her children feel respected, trusted, and connected. That is detachment. It's not withdrawal, it's wisdom. So often people confuse detachment with coldness. But that's a misunderstanding. Coldness is the absence of love. Detachment is the presence of clarity. It's when you realize that your peace should not be dictated by anything temporary. People's opinions, material success, even the highs and lows of emotions. Instead, peace comes from anchoring yourself in God, who is constant, unchanging, and always present. Imagine your life is like a boat in the ocean. The ocean represents the world. Sometimes calm, sometimes stormy. The boat is your journey. But what keeps the boat safe is its anchor. Detachment is that anchor. It doesn't remove you from life. It simply holds you steady in it. And that anchor, when rooted in God, allows you to enjoy everything fully without being shaken by anything. Let me share a story. A businessman once came to a monk and said, "I have everything, wealth, family, reputation, but still I am restless." The monk took him to a lake and handed him a bowl full of water. "Walk around this lake," he said, "but don't spill a single drop." The man walked carefully, nervously, with all his focus on the bowl. After completing the round, the monk asked, "Did you see the beautiful birds or hear their songs?" The man said, "No, I was too focused on the bowl." The monk smiled and said, "That's your problem. You're holding your like this bowl with fear of losing. You're so attached to everything that you've forgotten to live, forgotten to hear God's whispers in the background. Let go. Not to give up, but to breathe." Attachment makes us fearful. We start saying things like, "What if I lose this? What if they leave me? What if I fail?" But detachment says, "Even if things change, I'll be okay. Because my strength comes from God, not from the things I hold." This is not a theory. This is a truth we all eventually learn. Sometimes through pain, sometimes through wisdom. Everything we cling to, beauty, youth, money, positions, will change. But what never changes is the silent presence of the divine within us. That is our only true possession. The rest is on rent. Take the example of a lotus flower. It grows in mud. It lives in water, but it floats above, untouched. The water doesn't cling to its petals. And yet, it is not separate from the water. It simply rises above it. That is the essence of detachment. Be in the world fully, but don't let the world be in you. Live with love, work with passion, build relationships with sincerity, but do not lose yourself in any of it. Because your real self is beyond roles, beyond titles, beyond achievements. It is the soul, ever connected to God. When we detach, we give ourselves the freedom to breathe again. We stop overreacting. We stop obsessing. We stop depending on things that were never meant to define us. And ironically, when we let go, life flows better. Relationships improve because we stop demanding. Work becomes joyful because we stop pressuring. Health improves because we stop stressing. And our heart opens up to feel the presence of God more deeply. Because there's finally space. Detachment does not mean we give up on goals or desires. It simply means we are not bound by their outcomes. We do our best, we give our all, and then we surrender. Because we understand that we are not the ultimate controller. God is, and when we trust Him, we become light. We carry the responsibilities, but we don't let them crush us. We engage with life, but we're not entangled in it. Try this in your daily life. Next time you feel overly stressed about something, pause and ask yourself, am I attached to an outcome, or am I aligned with the flow? Shift your focus from control to connection. And you'll feel the burden lift, you'll feel your spirit rise. And in that rising, in that letting go, you'll discover something you've been searching for all along: freedom. So remember, to be spiritually brilliant is not to escape life. It is to rise above it, to engage fully but not be enslaved by any of it. That's not indifference. That's inner mastery. That's the power of sacred detachment. We pay so much attention to cleaning our bodies, our homes, and even our social media profiles. Every day we brush our teeth, wash our face, dress well, and present ourselves in the best way possible to the outside world. But how often do we clean our space where we actually live? Our mind and heart. You see, physical cleanliness may impress others, but inner cleanliness impresses God, because your outer life is just a reflection of your inner state. No matter how polished your appearance is, if your mind is full of resentment, your heart heavy with jealousy, and your thoughts cluttered with comparison, you will never feel the lightness that spiritual brilliance brings. Inner cleanliness is the quiet, invisible discipline of the soul. It's about removing the invisible stains we collect throughout the day. Anger, ego, insecurity, complaints. These are not physical, but they weigh more than anything material ever could. Think about it. Have you ever walked into a room where everything is beautiful, but the people inside are bitter, tense, or arrogant? Even the most luxurious place becomes uncomfortable when the energy is heavy. Now imagine the opposite, a humble space, maybe simple in furniture, but filled with peace, respect, and kindness. That's the power of inner cleanliness. It makes the atmosphere sacred. And like dust that settles on furniture, these inner pollutants don't arrive all at once. They settle slowly. One comment from someone, and ego builds up. One moment of success, and pride sneaks in. One act of betrayal, and bitterness grows. One glance at someone else's life, and comparison takes root. That's why inner cleanliness is not a one-time act. It is a daily ritual, a habit of the spiritually aware. Just like you would never go a week without showering, you shouldn't go a day without cleaning your inner world. Let me share a real-life example. A young man once came to a spiritual teacher and said, "I don't know why I feel so heavy all the time. Nothing bad is happening in my life, but I don't feel joyful." The teacher smiled and gave him a small backpack filled with stones. "Carry this with you all day," he said. The man did it. He went to work, walked around, and by evening, his shoulders were aching. The teacher asked, "How do you feel?" The young man replied, "Tired and annoyed." The teacher then said, "This is exactly how your mind feels when it carries the emotional weight of old anger, jealousy, regrets, and grudges. You may not see them, but they drain you constantly." So, what does it mean to clean the mind? It means observing your thoughts like a watchful guard. When comparison arises, pause and shift into gratitude. When ego flares up, remember the source of your blessings. When jealousy creeps in, celebrate others as if their success is your own. These small acts are like mental showers. They don't take much time, but they renew your soul. Let's bring this into a relatable moment. Picture yourself scrolling through social media. You see someone enjoying a vacation you can't afford, living a life that looks picture perfect. Instantly, you feel that twinge. Why not me? This is how the dust of comparison enters. But now, imagine pausing in that moment. You take a deep breath and say, I am grateful for what I have. Their journey is theirs. Mine is mine. God has given me what I need right now. Just like that, you've cleansed the dust. You've protected your peace. Even more powerful than thought cleansing is heart cleansing. Sometimes, we carry old grudges like medals. We wear them with pride, saying, I'll never forgive them. But the truth is, holding on to pain doesn't punish the other, it poisons you. The heart is meant to flow like a river, not store up bitterness like a clogged pipe. Every time you forgive, you don't become weak, become clean. You clear space for joy, for love, and for God to dwell, because God cannot live in a heart full of hatred. He needs space. Forgiveness is how we create that sacred space. The most radiant people are not those who have everything figured out. They are the ones who cleanse regularly. They fail, but they reflect. They get jealous, but they catch themselves. They get angry, but they let go. They're not perfect. They're clean. And there's a difference. So how do we practice this inner cleanliness daily? One way is through silence and reflection. At the end of each day, take a moment. Close your eyes. Ask yourself, what did I carry today that I need to release? Maybe someone's words hurt you. Maybe you judged someone. Maybe you doubted yourself. Don't suppress it. Acknowledge it. Then release it. Imagine handing it over to God like a child handing over a broken toy to a parent. Fix this for me, your heart says, and God does, but only if you let go. Cleansing the mind and heart isn't a luxury for spiritual people. It's a necessity for every soul, because we were not created to be heavy. We were created to shine, to walk lightly, to love freely, and to live deeply. And that can only happen when the inner space is pure, peaceful, and present. So, tomorrow morning, when you bathe and dress, ask yourself, have I cleaned my mind today? Because true brilliance is not on your skin, it's in your soul. And a clean soul is the most beautiful light you'll ever carry. There's something divine about breath. We take it for granted because it happens so effortlessly, so continuously in being chosen, that we forget what a miracle it is. From the moment we are born to the moment we leave this world, breath is our most loyal companion. It never demands attention, never complains, and yet it gives us life, second by second, moment by moment. But what most people don't realize is this: breath is not just a biological function, it is a spiritual bridge, a sacred thread that connects your body to your soul and your soul to God. In a world where everything pulls us outward, work, relationships, distractions, noise, our breath gently calls us inward. Every inhale brings you into awareness, and every exhale invites you to let go. If you truly understand the power of your breath, it can become your most reliable spiritual practice. Not complicated, not religious, just real, raw, and present. God isn't far away. He is in your breath, right here, right now. There's a reason ancient wisdom, across civilizations, has placed so much emphasis on breathing. It's not just for health, it's for healing. It's not just for the body, it's for the spirit. Take a moment to reflecting. When you are angry, your breath becomes fast and shallow. When you are anxious, it gets tight and erratic. When you are calm, it slows down. Breath reveals the state of your soul before even you are aware of it. Let me share a story with you. A man came to a spiritual teacher, overwhelmed by life. I've lost my peace, he said. I've read books, listened to talks, prayed, but my mind is still restless. The teacher didn't say a word. He simply placed his hand on the man's chest and said, "Just breathe with awareness. Nothing more." For a moment, the man resisted. How can something so simple be the answer? But he tried. One breath, then another. Slowly his body softened. His mind quieted. Tears rolled down his eyes. Not because of sadness, but because he remembered what peace felt like. It wasn't outside, it was always within, hidden beneath the clutter of thoughts. And breath was the doorway. You don't need to go to a mountain or a temple to feel God. Just close your eyes and observe your breath. Feel the inhale as a gift. Feel the exhale as a surrender. When you do this with full presence, you will realize something profound. God is breathing you. You are not the door. You are being breathed. Life is not something you control. It is something you receive. Take a practical daily life example. A young woman balancing work, family, and her own inner storms found herself constantly anxious. She would rush through her day, ticking tasks off her list, but feeling hollow inside. One morning, she decided to change just one thing. Every time she transitioned between tasks, before opening her laptop, before entering a meeting, before speaking to her child, she paused for 3 conscious breaths. Not long, just 3. But in those 3 breaths, she reminded herself, I am not alone, I am connected. God is with me. And everything began to change. Not because the world outside shifted, but because her inner world did. Breath is free, always available. And yet, it is the most underused spiritual tool. You don't need incense, mantras, or sacred music, although those are beautiful too. But even a noisy office, in a traffic jam, or in the middle of an argument, your breath is there, ready to guide you home. You just need to remember it, to trust it, to let it carry you back into presence. There is something deeply humbling about this practice. When you breathe consciously, you become aware of the miracle of life itself. You start to see that you are not the center of the universe, but a small, sacred part of a vast divine intelligence. This breath flowing through you, it flows through every living being. The trees, the animals, the strangers walking past you. They're all breathing the same air, connected by the same invisible thread. And in that realization, ego begins to melt. Comparison fades. Compassion awakens. You also begin to understand the fragility of life. We take thousands of breaths every day, assuming there will always be a next one. But one day there won't. And that's not meant to scare you. It's meant to make you awake, alive, grateful. Every breath is a reminder. You are still here. You still have a chance to live deeply, love sincerely, and serve joyfully. Breathing with God's presence doesn't require time. It requires attention. Next time you feel lost or overwhelmed, pause. Close your eyes. Take one full conscious breath and say silently, God is with me. Feel that truth. Let it calm your heart. Let it anchor your soul. This one practice, repeated again and again, can transform your life. You'll no longer walk around restless. You'll carry stillness within. You'll no longer react impulsively. You'll respond consciously. You'll no longer feel separate from the divine. You'll feel Him in every moment, in every breath, in every beat of your heart. So don't underestimate the power of your breath. It is not just air. It is a sacred whisper of God, the most subtle yet the most powerful connection you have to the divine. Let each breath become a prayer. Let each exhale be a release. Let each inhale be a renewal. Because when you breathe consciously, you are not just living, you are awakening.